Hi, and welcome to the Corporate Warriors podcast. My name is Fela, and in this episode, we're going to talk about spiritual life coaching and career coaching and how the two work together. So, to start off that topic, I need to say this is really a topic that is deeply in my heart, and it's really, really important to me to clarify this because I know this kind of can seem weird out there in a normal working world that we're all used to, that what is a spiritual life coach doing in career coaching and how does that even make sense? So personally, I just went out with the certificate that I had on spiritual life coaching, and I need to say it was kind of a challenge to put it out there. Why? Because I know that can easily be frowned upon. And I know that there are a lot of people judging this and saying, like, what does it have to do with one another? And literally, to be really honest, I probably would have said the same thing in the past. To be fully transparent, I was even very critical about life coaching in general, just because I didn't really know what was behind it actually. So I was critical about something without even knowing what's going on. So I want to tidy that up a little bit and make it clearer for everybody what I'm doing and why I think that it's amazing and helpful for everybody. In order to dive into the topic, I want to take you on the journey first so that you understand how I got into spiritual life coaching. So, take you with me on my journey. It was nearly 3 years ago, or a little bit longer even, that I started to think about becoming a career coach. I was always interested in the topic. I loved the topic of careers. I was basically searching for career advice myself and was pretty young, very, very early in my corporate journey, so to speak. And I was searching for advice online and I could not find a lot of helpful stuff for me. So what I did back then was I was super motivated. So I started to Google and search stuff everywhere. So I basically came up with my own package of skills that I would need to learn in order to advance quicker in the corporate world. So I did a lot of different trainings and I basically picked them out of global trainings, videos, and people that are very specified to one niche. So I would take a look at how to present correctly, how to communicate correctly, how to use personal branding tactics in your corporate office, all of these things for me to advance. So I basically created my own equation of how career success comes into existence. And I was training myself on each and every single one of those variables. And at some point I was like, so crazy. There's no coach out there doing that and just talking exactly about these things. So back then the idea kind of was born for me to become a career coach. And what I did not know back then is that there are some things missing. Only learning skills is just one part of the equation. There's a very, very important thing missing as well. And we'll come to that later. But what happened then to me? What happened was that you can already hear I was kind of type A personality and I was super motivated and I was doing anything I could to advance. And it worked really well. So I was just, exhilarated by this positive boost and promotions and better job offers and headhunters reaching out to me. So I was just living my dream career, really, literally. And at the same time, slowly but steadily, I started to search around to see a bit what else is out there in the personal development space. And I started to listen to a podcast, which is a little bit more about the spiritual side as well, not only, but also. So it started to being integrated a little bit more and more into my life. And the flip side really was when at some point in my career, there was a big shift and I felt stuck and I felt like I cannot move. There were different reasons for that. And I don't want to go too much into detail, but I was in a very bad place and I knew in my heart that this wasn't something that I want to do in the long term anymore. And by then, I luckily already had set up this kind of spiritual routine and practice from that person I was following. She's a German content producer. Her name is Laura Melina Seiler. If you're speaking German, follow her. I really recommend her, all her contents. But for me, it was just so important to have that practice because when my career started to slow down and I had some difficulties and I was very, very close to running into a burnout, those practices and doing the work and doing the journaling, all that came with it having this bigger vision for myself and for my life literally saved me from going into a dark place. And this is where I first felt that it's really, really important to have some spirituality still in your life. I know in the Western world, we kind of stopped really, doing that. And I cannot really tell you why. There are some people that are still spiritual, sure. Even very famous people like Patrick Bet-David, for instance, talks openly about his relationship to God and so forth. So I really admire that. But I would say in every day-to-day lives, it has become more and more common that people are not seeing themselves as spiritual beings anymore at all. So we kind of lost touch completely to that side of the human existence. Long story short, I was running very, very close on the burnout side of things. And I just knew that if I hadn't had my practice, if I hadn't had my spirituality, if I hadn't had my bigger vision for myself and for my life, for all of this to make sense, I would not be here the way I am. I would probably have needed to recover from a serious burnout. And at that moment, I knew that if I want to go into coaching, I have to become certified as a spiritual life coach, because those tools were the ones that saved me. It was not so much about only analyzing what is the issue. I mean, it's all good and well, and I love to analyze stuff. But in the end, you also have to feel it. And I feel that's what's oftentimes missing in the normal coaching world, where it's only about, oh, let's analyze the gap. Let's see how you get you there. And then let's be accountable. But we're completely missing out on the sense of life, a real purpose, something that really motivates you. And then, using that and having additional tactics and techniques so that it's not only about thinking and pushing, but also about feeling and being sure and being happy and proud to do what you're doing. Okay. So that's how I got into spiritual life coaching. And this is how I decided that this is the one thing that people need out there in corporations in order to stay sane and to stay productive and motivated, because they create their own vision for their lives and their careers. And if you have an own vision, it's going to be really easy for you to maintain it, to stay accountable and to do the things that are necessary to get there. Whereas if there's no bigger purpose behind that, it can be really draining. And I completely understand that people are like, you know what? I don't even want to be a leader. I don't even want to be a leader in a world where it's just, elbows and everybody's super egoistic and everything. And personally, I don't want that. I think there are great people out there, and the ones giving up are oftentimes the ones that would be the most amazing leaders. So I want to be there and support you guys in figuring out what it is that actually brings you the joy and gives you the spark of energy so that you can become the best leaders out there. So as I said, spiritual practice was huge for me at that time. It was something like gratitude journaling, guided meditation, releasing blockers that kind of kept me stuck in my mindset, and, using that to my best advantage. So one blocker, for instance, that I had is what it was about caring what other people think of me. And that can be a huge blocker. If you have that, you will never put yourself out there, even if it's for a promotion or whatnot. Let's say a new position is open, you would love to have it. If you care too much about what people might think, you will not even present yourself as a potential candidate, because you're afraid if they say no, you'll be seen as a person that wanted something but is then not good enough. And then people could judge you. Or you have this intrinsic negative belief that you're just not good enough because it's something, for instance, that you felt from early days on, that you always need to prove yourself. So if you have that feeling, why would you put yourself out there? Obviously, that's a huge risk if you have that negative belief. So all that being said, to inform you that this is all solvable. You don't have to be stuck. You can have a wonderful, amazing life and live your life to your dreams and live a life that is in alignment with your vision and your purpose. Everything is possible, and things that are holding you back, those shackles, they can be dissolved. All right. Now, I already started a little bit to talk about how this is compatible, how is spiritual life coaching compatible with career coaching. So really, I think the most and biggest part is really having this vision for your life, which is very closely related also to having a purpose. So saying, I am here for a purpose. And the purpose can be, you're there for your family. It can be that you're an amazing leader and have a crazy, perfect, amazing ripple effect on all the employees that you are responsible for. It can be anything. It's important that you figure out what your purpose is, what is lighting up your energy, right? What is lighting up your fire, and then create a career vision that is in alignment with that. Because if you have a huge vision, like not just a super small one, okay? If you have a big ass vision, if something goes wrong, which I promise you it will, at some point things go wrong, that's totally normal. But if you have a big vision and something goes wrong, you know that this is just a minor setback, right? Like a career setback, for instance. And you don't get yourself thrown off your great journey only because one or two things didn't work out the way you planned to. You'll find solutions because the vision is so big and so attractive to you that you will want to keep going. And you need this kind of intrinsic motivation in order to continue doing the work, in order to continue going your path. And then with that also comes that if you have a purpose, then you don't frown if I tell you that we on average spend 90,000 hours of our lifetime at our job. And that doesn't even include getting there and going home. Like, that is not even included in that time. And we all know that our lifetime is limited. So let's use it to do something that we're actually passionate about, that we actually like what we're doing. And it does not mean we need to like every single second. But overall, do you have a purpose? Like, does it make sense to you? Is it worth your time and energy? And then also with spirituality comes one amazing thing, that if you're a truly spiritual person, you have hope and you know that anything is possible. So you cannot be held back in the long term. Even there might be setbacks, even if somebody might be plotting against you, it doesn't really matter anymore. Because even if somebody's super mean to you, you could come to the conclusion that this person was your teacher. I had one person in the podcast, Emily Liu, and she said that her most toxic manager was her biggest guide. Because without him, she would never have started her own thing, and she would have never decided that she now does what she needs to do in her life. So sometimes even the people that seem horrible and that trigger us, they are a true gift. But in order to have that perspective, you need to have that kind of spiritual development in some ways. So having said all of that, what is spiritual life coaching? So it's really about creating this vision, this goal for yourself, something that is really attractive to you and to you only, that's really unique because it depends on your true authentic self. Now, when you are living your true authentic self, you're not afraid. You don't have to be afraid because there's nothing to lose. If you lose a job offer and during the interview you're playing a role that wasn't even you can be resentful towards yourself. But if you were truly your authentic self and the person or the team doesn't want you, then that's okay. Then it's just not a fit. Do you hear what I'm saying? If you're constantly being your true authentic self, then there's no regrets. Because then either something is for you or something is not for you, and both is fine. And it does not mean, I'm not woo-woo in a way that I tell you, you don't have to know how to communicate, or you don't have to dress up at least, dress for success or make a good impression. That is not it. That can be part of your true authentic self. I think it's even the opposite. I think for most people, this is the true authentic self. The people lying on the sofa all day long, they're oftentimes being blocked by other things. So they hold back on their full potential, which is the opposite of what the spiritual life coaching is about. It's about digging deeper in order to be able to live up to your full potential. You hear what I'm saying? So for me, it's just so evident that this is part of career coaching. And then, of course, once you know who you are and you know what you want, it's way easier to have an aligned strategy and to come up with tactics how to get there. And then once we have that strategy, we can see, oh, there's some things that are really, really hard for me to do. So we can take a closer look at why is that hard? What is blocking you? So then we come to the negative beliefs. Is there something lingering? What keeps you from living and being your full potential? Okay, and once we have dissolved those, because again, all of that is dissolvable, resolvable, negative beliefs can be shifted into beliefs that actually support you and your vision and that fit to your true authentic self. Once that is done, the strategy, the action plan, and the accountability will be easier. And yes, of course, that's also then part of the coaching. But what is coaching not? It's not about consultation. So there are also great counselors out there that will help you write a CV, set up your LinkedIn in the most ideal way and all. And that's all good and well, but this is not coaching. Coaching is really about you figuring out what you need. It's not about me or anybody else telling you just what to do in order to be successful, because that would be like creating a certain persona. And while that can be successful, it's way less fulfilling if you know that this is not the real you. And to finish up that very short episode, what I truly admire so much is about a spiritual life coaching is that it goes into the subconscious. So basically what is happening with those negative beliefs, or let's just call them beliefs. It's things that we learned at some point. So some people, for instance, have this deeply ingrained belief that they are not good enough. Well, if you are suffering from that belief, you might not be aware of it. Even the opposite can become true. It can be that those people in their careers, they are constantly overworking. And they will not tell you why. You will just think, oh, that's crazy. This person is working so much. How can they be so motivated all the time? How can they work so many hours all the time? Don't they value their family and their free time? Probably they do. But the deep ingrained belief that they're not enough triggers the fear that others will find out that they're not good enough. So they constantly need to prove themselves way more than what they would actually need to do an amazing job, even to get a promotion. So no matter at what positions they are, they might be at the risk of a burnout because the negative belief behind it, the belief that they have they're not good enough, is constantly triggering reactions and emotions in them that are not helpful for them in the long run. You see where I'm going? So there are ways how to shift those beliefs. And if we come from the perspective that there's not such a thing as a negative belief, then let's just say there are beliefs that support you in creating a life and career that you desire. And there are beliefs that will completely keep you from doing that. There are beliefs that will just make it impossible for you to have a career and a life that you truly enjoy, because they're constantly manipulating your actions. So even if somebody, goes to a coaching that is not a transformative coach, but more like a consultation type of coach, and they're like, oh, I want to do this and that, and they come up with a great action plan. It can be the best action plan on the planet, okay? And then they come up with accountability strategies. That is not solving the issue, because the issue lies deeper. And this is where the spiritual life coaching, guided meditations, where you're in another brainwave state, which means that you have access to the subconscious, where you can actually implement change in your subconscious, comes into play. And this is why I love it so much. This is why also I started to not, have sessions just 60 minutes, but say, okay, I want to create real transformation. I want the people to go out and be like, wow, something shifted inside of me. And for me, it's totally fine if people don't need to come every single week to a coaching. I have clients that come sometimes every week, and then there's a break. They're going fine. And then 4 weeks later, they come back to me. They're like, there's something else here. I don't know what it is. And we figure it out together. And I'd rather have one longer coaching and they go out and be like, wow, that was amazing. And then not come back for another 2 weeks. Whereas other coaches out there, they keep you kind of in the hook because they're like accountability coaches. And that's fine if that's what you need. But very, very often the issue lies below that. So if you're not being held accountable, if you have really issues in sticking to what you really want, then my question would be, do you really want it? Right? Because if you really, really want it and there's nothing blocking you, why don't you do it? There must be something keeping you from going. And yes, there is the one solution that says push, push, push. We just keep ourselves accountable. You have accountability groups, buddies, masterminds. You can do it that way, but it's way more draining. And this is not aligned action. Aligned action happens when you're doing what you're here to be doing, when you feel like there's a deeper sense behind what you're doing, when you feel like there's no blocker inside you keeping you from doing what's right, then you can do it in ease, joy, and fun. Then this ease can come back. Remember when you were a child and you just wanted to play? It didn't matter how long it took to build up that tower. If you wanted to play with a tower, that was what you're doing. You didn't need an accountability coach, an accountability buddy. You didn't need your mom to be constantly next to you being like, oh yeah, put in the next block, right? Nobody needs that as a child because we're not wired the same way. When you're a child, the subconscious is still being built up. Whereas when we're adults, very, very often, we never ever take a look at it again. So that's what we're doing here. And this is why spiritual life coaching for me makes perfect sense to be integrated in career coaching so that we can get the best out of both worlds and make sure that you can reach your objectives, your career and life objectives in an aligned way. And that it can be finally fun again. If that was of any help for you whatsoever, then please, please leave me a comment and subscribe to the channel. I'm still building everything up from scratch and it would mean a lot for me if you were, leaving me a comment, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I see you next time. I'm also very active on Instagram, so the link is also below in the bio. And yeah, hope to see you next time. Bye.